Have you ever witnessed a moment that completely changed how you see the world? That's what happened to me that day at Westfield Corporate Plaza. Before we dive into this incredible story that taught me, and an entire company, about what truly matters in life, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to see more real stories that touch the heart. It was a Tuesday morning when I first noticed them, three identical little girls with matching navy dresses and ribbon-tied ponytails, sitting quietly in the corner of the bustling corporate lobby. At just 5 years old, they were practically invisible to the parade of executives and assistants rushing past with coffee cups and important folders. Nobody seemed to notice the triplets or the exhausted-looking woman beside them who kept checking her watch. I wouldn't have paid much attention either, except I recognized her. Everyone did. Elaine Mercer, the newly appointed CEO who'd made headlines when she took over Westfield Industries 6 months ago. The first female CEO in the company's history, known for her brilliant mind and uncompromising standards. The woman who'd reportedly never missed a meeting or shown a moment of weakness. Yet here she was, looking completely overwhelmed as she spoke urgently into her phone while her three daughters sat perfectly still, their little faces showing a practiced patience that seemed wrong on children so young. "The nanny has pneumonia, and my mother can't get here until tonight," I overheard her saying. "I have the board presentation in 20 minutes. I don't have a choice, they'll have to stay in my office." That's when I noticed him, Marcus Reeves from accounting. A quiet man who kept to himself, known around the office as efficient but unremarkable. The single dad who'd started 6 months ago and politely declined happy hours because he had to pick up his son. I'd exchanged maybe 10 words with him in the elevator. While everyone else pretended not to notice the CEO's predicament, Marcus approached without hesitation. He knelt down to eye level with the triplets and said 3 simple words that would change everything: "I see you." The girls looked up, startled that someone was actually acknowledging them. Their identical brown eyes widened with surprise. "I'm Marcus," he continued softly. "And sometimes, grown-ups get very busy and forget what it's like to be little. Would you like to color while your mom finishes her important call?" From his messenger bag, he produced 3 coloring books and a box of crayons, items I later learned he always carried for his 7-year-old son, Theo. Elaine Mercer turned, her professional mask slipping for just a moment as she watched this stranger connect with her daughters when everyone else had carefully avoided them. "Olivia, Emma, and Ava don't usually warm up to strangers," she said cautiously. Marcus smiled. "My son was shy too. Sometimes all kids need is for someone to see them, really see them." What happened next would ripple through Westfield Industries in ways nobody could have predicted. But to understand why, you need to know more about both Marcus and Elaine, and the parallel journeys that brought them to that moment in the lobby. Marcus Reeves hadn't planned on being a single father. 3 years ago, he had a promising career at a prestigious accounting firm, a beautiful wife named Sarah, and a 4-year-old son who thought his daddy hung the moon. Then came the accident, black ice on a February night, a truck that couldn't stop in time. Sarah was gone instantly, leaving Marcus to raise Theo alone. He'd moved across the country for a fresh start, taking a significant step down career-wise to work at Westfield Industries because they offered something more valuable than prestige: flexibility for parents. What he didn't know was that the family-friendly policies existed mainly on paper, rarely utilized by employees afraid of appearing uncommitted. Elaine Mercer's path to single motherhood had been different but no less challenging. After years of fertility treatments, she'd finally become pregnant with triplets at 40, just as she was being considered for the CEO position she'd worked toward her entire career. Her husband, unable to handle the pressure of instant fatherhood to 3 infants while married to a high-powered executive, had walked out when the girls were 6 months old. For 5 years, she'd maintained a careful separation between her professional and personal lives. Her colleagues knew she had children, but she never discussed them, never brought them to company events, never used them as an excuse for anything. She'd built an elaborate support system of nannies and family members to ensure her role as a mother never interfered with her role as CEO. Until that Tuesday, when her carefully constructed worlds collided in the lobby of her own company. The board meeting starts in 15 minutes, Ms. Mercer, her assistant reminded her nervously, eyeing the triplets. Elaine's composure faltered. I know, David. I'm trying to figure this out. Marcus stood up. Ms. Mercer, I could watch them during your meeting. I have a light workload today, and I'm used to entertaining a child. 3 can't be that much harder than 1, right? He smiled, though anyone who'd ever cared for multiple children would know better. Elaine hesitated, studying this man she barely knew. Why would you do that? Because someone did it for me once, when I was drowning, he said simply. Sometimes we all need a hand. Something in his honest gaze made her nod. My office is on the top floor. They have tablets with games, and there are snacks in my desk drawer. We'll be fine, Marcus assured her. Won't we, girls? The triplets looked to their mother for permission, and when she nodded, they stood up in perfect unison. Be good for Mr. Reeves, Elaine instructed, her CEO voice returning. Then, more softly, thank you. As they walked toward the elevator, 1 ordinary accountant and 3 identical little girls, people stopped to stare. Marcus Reeves, the quiet man from accounting who never drew attention to himself, was suddenly very visible. What nobody knew then was that this small act of kindness would set in motion a transformation that would touch everyone at Westfield Industries, from the janitor to the board members. In Elaine's spacious corner office, Marcus discovered that the triplets, though identical in appearance, had distinctly different personalities. Olivia was the leader, Emma the peacemaker, and Ava the dreamer. They were well-behaved but reserved, as though they'd learned early that being quiet and undemanding was what adults preferred. Do you like stories? Marcus asked, after they'd colored quietly for 20 minutes. Ava's face lit up. Daddy used to tell us stories before he went away. Marcus felt a pang in his chest. My son Theo loves stories too. Would you like to hear one? 3 heads nodded eagerly. He began telling them about the Invisible Kingdom, a story he'd created for Theo after Sarah died, about a place where people could only see each other if they looked with their hearts instead of their eyes. In the Invisible Kingdom, he explained, there was a little prince who felt like nobody could see him, even though he was right there. Like us. Emma exclaimed. Sometimes people look right through us. Marcus nodded gently. The prince discovered that he had a special power. When he said, I see you, to someone else who felt invisible, they would both become visible again. Does it work in real life? Olivia asked skeptically. Sometimes, Marcus said. That's why I said it to you in the lobby. I could tell you felt invisible. Mommy feels invisible too, Ava whispered. She cries sometimes when she thinks we're sleeping. Marcus felt his throat tighten. Grown-ups cry sometimes too. It doesn't mean anything is wrong. Daddy said Mommy loves her job more than us, Emma said matter-of-factly. That's why he left. Before Marcus could respond to this heartbreaking revelation, the office door opened, and Elaine Mercer walked in. Her presentation was clearly over earlier than expected, and from the flush of triumph on her face, it had gone well. Her expression changed when she saw her daughters sitting in a circle on the floor with Marcus, clearly engaged in deep conversation. Everything okay? She asked cautiously. Mr. Marcus tells stories. Ava announced. About the invisible kingdom where people have to see with their hearts. Something flickered across Elaine's face, vulnerability, perhaps, or recognition. Thank you for watching them, she said formally. I hope they weren't any trouble. They're wonderful, Marcus replied honestly. Smart, kind, and thoughtful. You should be very proud. For a moment, Elaine seemed at a loss for words. As though no one had ever simply complimented her children before without an agenda. I am, she finally said, her voice softer than anyone at Westfield had ever heard it. They're the best thing I've ever done. Marcus gathered his things, preparing to return to his cubicle and the quarterly reports waiting for him. "If you ever need help again," he said casually, "I'm just down on 4. He was almost to the door when Elaine called after him. "Mr. Reeves, Marcus. Why did you really help us today?" Everyone else pretended not to notice our situation. Marcus paused. 3 years ago, my wife died suddenly. I was left alone with our son, trying to work and parent and grieve all at once. One day, I was falling apart in a grocery store when a stranger stepped in to help. She told me something I've never forgotten: we're all just walking each other home. Today was my turn to help someone else along the way. With that, he left, unaware that his simple act of kindness had cracked open something in the formidable CEO that had been sealed shut for years. The next morning, an email went out to all Westfield employees. Elaine Mercer was instituting new family-friendly policies, effective immediately. Flexible working hours. A dedicated children's room for emergencies. Parent networking events. Westfield's greatest asset is our people, the email concluded. And our people have families. Starting today, we acknowledge that reality instead of pretending otherwise. The rumor mill exploded. What had happened to the Ice Queen CEO? Some said she'd had a religious conversion. Others speculated about medication changes or board pressure. Only Marcus understood the truth: Elaine Mercer had simply been seen, really seen, as both a CEO and a mother, perhaps for the first time. 2 weeks later, Marcus received a meeting request from the CEO's office. Nervous but curious, he arrived to find not just Elaine but her 3 daughters as well. "Girls, do you remember what you wanted to ask Mr. Reeves?" Elaine prompted. Olivia, clearly the spokesperson, stepped forward. "We want to meet Theo. We've never had a boyfriend before. Mom says he might teach us about dinosaurs." Marcus smiled. "Theo would love that. He's actually an expert on dinosaurs." "We thought perhaps a play date this weekend," Elaine suggested, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. "If you're free, of course." That first playdate led to another, and then another. Theo, who had been withdrawn since his mother's death, blossomed with the triplets' attention. The girls, who had grown up isolated by their mother's position and their father's absence, thrived with a new friend who didn't care who their mother was. And somewhere along the way, Marcus and Elaine began to see each other too, not as CEO and employee, but as 2 single parents doing their best in difficult circumstances. 6 months after that fateful day in the lobby, Westfield Industries was featured in Business Weekly as a model for corporate family policies. The article included a photo of Elaine with her daughters, alongside a quote that made Marcus smile when he read it. "Success isn't just measured in profits. It's measured in how we see and support each other as whole human beings." The company's productivity hadn't suffered with the new policies, it had improved. Turnover decreased. Job applications increased. It turned out that acknowledging employees as people with lives outside work made them more loyal, not less. On the 1-year anniversary of their first meeting, Marcus and Elaine sat on a park bench watching their children play, for kids who now considered themselves siblings in all but name. "You changed my life that day," Elaine said quietly. With just 3 words. Marcus took her hand. "I see you." She nodded. No one had really seen me, all of me, for so long. I'd forgotten what it felt like. "I see you," he repeated, this time with a different meaning entirely. "The CEO, the mother, the woman, all of you." "And I see you," she replied. "The accountant, the father, the man who knelt down when everyone else looked away." Sometimes the most profound changes begin with the simplest actions. In a world where we're all rushing past each other, taking the time to kneel down and truly see another person might be the most revolutionary act of all. As for Marcus and Elaine, well, that's another story for another day. But I will tell you this, in the invisible kingdom that Marcus created, people who truly see each other never become invisible again. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content that reminds us what truly matters. Sometimes the most important lessons come from the most unexpected moments, like when a single dad saw everyone ignore a CEO's triplets, until he knelt down and said 3 simple words that changed everything: I see you.